Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming back. On this week's show, we welcome TSN 690 Simon Salikas on our 4 Down segment as we discuss the Edmonton Oilers. Is it time for change? We also discuss the round of 16 UEFA Champions League. On our Pretender Contender segment, with the 49ers not making the playoffs, we ask, is Colin Kaepernick a pretender or a contender? Also, I'm joined on my face-off segment by none other than ex-NFL running back Terrell Fletcher. It's happening right here, right now. It's time to read between the lines. This week's 4 Downs is powered by Deodora Canada as we discuss the round of 16 at the UEFA Champions League with some of the big names not winning their group stage. It's setting up some monster matchups as always. We want to hear about your predictions at facebook.com/RBTL Sports as well as on Twitter at RBTL Sports. We welcome this man right here, TSN 690, Simon Salikas. You gave me my first break in radio. Great to welcome you.
Hey, great to be here.
Good. To his right is Anthony Cornelli, RBTL contributor, as well as one of my co-hosts. Great to see you. Looking forward to your feedback. And to my left, David Hurley, RBTL contributor, one of my co-hosts. Great to see you, gentlemen. All right, first and foremost, a lot of expectations, a lot of anticipation. Last Monday, we finally saw some big matchups, big draws. What's one of the things that you're looking forward to the most with regards to the round of 16?
I'm looking forward to the PSG-Chelsea game. I mean, I feel bad for PSG because the Sheikh put in hundreds of millions of dollars for them to win the Champions League, and they get unlucky by drawing Chelsea. I think if they didn't draw Chelsea, PSG could have made a great run into the Champions League.
Don't count PSG out just yet. I mean, last year it took Demba Ba to score that goal in the 87th minute. Jose Mourinho coming in with the magical substitution. I do like Chelsea, this PSG, and I also do like Borussia Dortmund versus Juventus. That should be a fun matchup as well.
When you take a look at small market teams, you look at the Porto FC Basel matchup. It's great for small market teams, but is it good for football? Is it good for soccer?
Look, I think it is. I think this is a very special, unique tournament, right? With North American sports, we got the salary cap. It's nice to look over sometimes and see, let the big dogs eat. It's okay. Sometimes, in North, salary cap here, salary cap there. But a tournament like this, I think that's what makes it special. You can throw mad money at it, and that's what makes it unique.
I also think it speaks volumes to what Porto's done as a club. I mean, Porto's made sales over the last 10 years of made $350 million in profit of selling their players to bigger clubs around the world.
Are they the best with regards to creating new blood, young players? Are they the best? Because they seem to be just off the charts when it comes to
Portugal's known for the youth development. A good buddy of mine, Mark Dos Santos, former coach of the Montreal Impact, he did a stage in Porto. They've developed over the last 10 years since they won the Europa League and the Champions League back-to-back. How many players did we look up that they just...
Yeah, I mean, you look at Falcao, James Rodriguez.
Falcao, they all came through the Porto system, and Sporting's not too bad either. They produced Figo and Ronaldo.
But does it take away, when you take a look at these two small money market teams, right? And again, in between brackets, small money market teams. Does it take away the purity of the sport? Does it take away, if you take a look at how Champions League used to be, right? There's a bit of big change. Now one of these two teams are making it into the round of 8. Yeah. Some would say, you know what, they don't belong in the round of 8.
As a traditionalist, as an old school soccer guy, I remember the Champions Cup, and my dad remembers the European Cup when it was the first 2 teams out of Italy or the first 2 teams out of England that were going. So what that would do is that the top 2 teams in Italy, if it would be Juve Roma, they'd go into the Champions League. The next 2 would go into Europa League or the old UEFA Cup. So now we have 2 tournaments that are stacked. And in the European Cup, when it was only 16 teams, it was only the winner of the top 16 nations.
I think it's great. I think it allows some of these smaller clubs to strive to something. And it's a great way to showcase their talent, their academies.
It's a cash cow too, though.
Exactly. It's a cash cow. They can sell off maybe some other players. So I think it works out for everybody. It is very top heavy. But again, I think that's what makes it special.
Let's throw it out there. Real Madrid, are they truly the favorites, or can somebody knock them off?
Truly the favorites in my books. I mean, Bayern Munich will give them a run for their money, though. It all depends on how the draw is going to work out after the next round. But I really, really like Real Madrid and Cristiano Ronaldo to repeat this year.
Any dark horses?
Dark horse, I guess we can't pick any of the top clubs. I'll say Arsenal. Just maybe putting it together right now.
And they're unseated.
Every time Arsene Wenger, you think he's dead, he's out the door. Somehow he rallies, he circles the wagons. But we said dark horse.
Yeah, you're right.
That means we got to eliminate 6.
Yeah, you're
we
right.
got to keep out a couple of, the bottom 3. But I think maybe Arsenal's got a chance.
Real quick, your pick.
I think Barcelona, because this year, last year, Atletico went to the final with Real. A lot of the focus was off Barca. The last 10 years, all the focus has been on them. Now that they signed Suarez, Neymar's coming into his own, Messi's always Messi. I think Barcelona, always being one of the best teams in the world, is my dark horse pick to come in against the Bayern Munichs and the Real Madrid.
One of the hardest attacks to stop, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
We're changing gears. Stay right there. After the break, we're talking some Edmonton Oilers with the firing of Dallas Eakins. Is it time for change, or will change come about? We'll find out right after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. On this week's Four Downs, we're changing gears. We're talking about the Edmonton Oilers. They've won one game in their last 15. The firing of Dallas Eakins is definitely a good move with regards to the organization, but is Craig McTavish's ego standing in the way of seeing some success with this organization? We welcome back TSN 690, Simon Salikas. Great to see you. To your right, Anthony Cornelli. Thanks for coming back. And of course, David Hurley. Great to see you. All right, gentlemen, finally, Dallas Eakins gets fired. It's one step in the right direction. Is this going to be the epitome? Is this going to be the change that Edmonton needs?
I don't know. I think it's a cultural thing, and it's a very scary thing. I grew up watching the New York Islanders and win 4 Stanley Cups and be the class of the National Hockey League. And you think, oh, they're going to taper off a little bit and they'll get some draft picks and then they'll rebuild. It's been 25 years since they've been relevant. The same we can say about the Raiders. Once that culture seeps into your locker room, that's why I don't believe in tanking and going out and getting a draft pick. Winning hockey games is very important because you got to keep that losing mentality, that losing culture out of your locker room. And how do you shake it? There's been teams that have been bad for 20 years. The Clippers, the Cleveland Browns.
But is he the one to be blamed?
No, this has to start
entirely
like any other corporation. It starts at the top. It doesn't stop with your
I think Craig McTavish looks back at his career in time and he must think to himself, I should have wore a helmet, because some of these decisions that he's made are terrible. The draft picks, he's paying the same prototypical player every year, year in, year out. And then what does he do as his great free agent signing? Benoit Pouliot, give him $20 million. Are you kidding me right now?
Andrew Ferentz was a great
Andrew
pickup,
Ferentz is supposed to be your leader player on the team. He's not a leader guy.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole atmosphere, like you said, in the locker room needs to change. And this is what the problem with the NHL is. They always go after an old player and say he's got the pedigree to do it. No, he doesn't. He was just a player, and you're hoping that he has the pedigree to do it.
For me, this is a rebuild 2.0. It's the second stage of rebuilding for the Oilers after 8 or 9 years.
I think it's a 20.0 at this stage.
It's 8 years without a playoff appearance. I mean, if you look at Pittsburgh, LA, Chicago, they rebuild properly.
Well,
they went out.
It took them a while, but they
cleaned out
the Oilers drafted well with Hopkins and Nugent Hopkins and Yakupov, et cetera, et cetera. But where are they now?
But the Oilers didn't go. The Blackhawks didn't go and get Denny Savard and Steve Thomas. They went and got guys that fit the profile. That their CV said this is the best person for the job, and they haven't done that. They've kept it in that old boys network.
How excited are you now that Dallas Eakins is gone? Maybe a lot of the ego was playing them into play. They're going to let these kids play. I mean, that's ultimately what you want to do with these young guys. You want to let them play. You don't want to create too much of a system either for these guys to be in. Was that the issue with Dallas Eakins?
How good are these kids, though? Are we certain that they're that good? Taylor Hall's a quality hockey player. We go back to that draft. He's not the #1 pick anymore. It's Tyler Seguin. For years, we thought Taylor Hall was the better player. So Nugent Hopkins, Eberle, they scored big goals.
But at the same time, you're basing that on the fact that they haven't stepped to the plate yet. They haven't had a system in which we can actually see their best.
Every time, though,
even management gave him a contract. Instead of giving them a bridge contract, like Marc Bergevin has done with the Montreal Canadiens, he's gone straight out and given them $5 million. Well, when you do that, you're impeding your team. You can't get free agent talent in the league when you already maximize on these rookies who haven't really done much in the league. And that's where the organization's gone wrong. And it's look at the product. It's terrible. I feel bad for Oilers fans.
Dallas Eakins paid the price. Craig McTavish still has a job. It's 4 or 5 coaches the Oilers have been to in the last 4 or 5 years. Why don't we start looking at Kevin Lowe and what he's doing? And forget about Kevin Lowe, the owner.
The ownership needs to sell the team.
He's more worried about hanging out with his dynasty buddies than he is on building a winning team. And the Oilers have a cult following. How long are the followers, the fans, going to come out after not making the playoffs for 8 years?
Fun fact with the owners, when he started that oil change television show, that kind of a behind-the-scenes look of the Oilers. It was supposed to be an oil change, supposed to be something that's quick and a rebuild. Well, that oil change series is going to take 20 years before that team becomes relevant again. And they really got to change everything from top to bottom. It's a sad day in Edmonton.
How difficult is it going to be for the next coach in Edmonton to bring about any kind of change when we take a look at the power of McTavish?
I'm not sure it's difficult on the coach. I think it's difficult right now on Craig McTavish. Who is going to sit behind that bench? You've tried the good cop, the bad cop, the X's and O's guy. What are you going to go? Are you going to get the guy who's going to crack the whip? They've gone through everybody. And right now, I just don't know there's a complete overhaul. You need to trade 2 or 3 young studs. You need to address the needs on the back end. You need to get some, grinders. You know, Benoit Pouliot is that's a fireable offense.
Yeah.
Benoit Pouliot's
$20
contract
million
is a
for that
fireable
guy,
offense.
it's way too much.
Well, stay right there because after the break, we're moving into our Pretender Contender segment as we discuss something completely different. The 49ers have not made playoffs. They will not be making playoffs this year. The question is Colin Kaepernick a pretender or a contender? Stay with us. All that and more, all right here on Reid Between the Lines. This week's Pretender Contender is brought to you by Tilmar.ca as we discuss Colin Kaepernick. After being given the nod to get the starting position at quarterback, he's brought the team to 2 NFC Championship game appearances. The question is, now that they haven't made playoffs, is Colin Kaepernick a pretender or a contender? We welcome back Simon Salikas, Anthony Cornelli, David Hurley. Great to see you guys. All right, let's talk about the 49ers. Huge surprise. They're not going to be making playoffs. First things first, what's the biggest change you bring to this team, or is there any change needed at all?
I personally don't think there is a major change. The coach should not be fired. I know that's the biggest rumor that's going to happen right now. Quarterback, it is what it is. Colin Kaepernick's still in his 3rd year. Let's give him a break. I really think that the injury bug really hit this team at the beginning of the year. Not having Navarro Bowman since the NFC Championship game last year. Smith has been Aldon Smith's suspension has been something bad for the team. And you also have the running backs that haven't been doing it by committee this year.
Well, Smith and Bowman don't play often, so I'm going to put this on Kaepernick. This is on Jim Harbaugh. I think that relationship is done. I don't think Jim Harbaugh, that works at the professional level for an extended period of time. You look at Michael Crabtree, very good wide receiver. Anquan Bolden, the best possession receiver in football. Vernon Davis is one of the 6 best tight ends. The run game, Hyde and Gore is good, not great. The O-line is above average. This falls on Colin Kaepernick. The one thing that I find he has issues with is just making the easy throws. There's no touch. Everything's at 100 miles an hour. That's something he could work on, but you give defensive coordinators enough time, they get film on you, they figure you out. Now, he's got to do something. He's got to switch up something in his game to be effective.
In his defense, I think he's a contender. I mean, Bill Parcells came out and said that Colin Kaepernick's at a crossroads of his career. I don't think so. He's 27 years old. He's been to 2 NFC Championships games. He's been in the Super Bowl. Those cobwebs are out. All that's left now is to go out and win the big game. I think that with the rumors of Jim Harbaugh leaving, he kind of lost the locker room. There's a lot of pressure and criticism going on Kaepernick when we all know the suspensions and the injuries have hurt the Niners.
I think the team went away a little bit of their identity as well. I mean, they're a pass option kind of team. The read option hasn't been working this year. They haven't done it. I mean, he's got no rushing touchdowns. Colin Kaepernick was drafted out of Nevada for one thing. He had his legs. He rushed for 1,000 yards and he threw for 2,000. That's a mobile quarterback. He's the type of RG3. There's only one quarterback that's doing it in the NFL right now, and that's Russell Wilson, that has that style of play. They took it away from Kaepernick, which was his bread and butter. I think that's the main reason why they didn't play well this year.
I agree with you. I think he's definitely a contender. And I'm very curious to find out and where this stems from, right? Where this rumor of trading out Harbaugh comes from. Because the team's sitting 7-7 right now, right? If you win the game against the Rams, you win the game of the Battle of the Bay, you win against the Raiders, and you win against Chicago, this is a 10-14.
Yeah,
it's not a 7-7.
battling for the
right?
NFC
But I
it's
think that
not
every NFL team is going to circle a game on their calendar that they should have won.
Right, one game, not 3. That could have made an impact.
They're not the same. This is not the same squad that went to the Super Bowl, right? Remember that big physical defense that you couldn't move the ball on them. They've been beaten up. When you're elite, they come take your players. They lost a couple of players every year to free agency. And again, I think this is on Jim Harbaugh. I don't think he'll be back next year.
Oh, he won't be back. His coaching style, like you said, is a little too aggressive. I think it's the general manager and him don't clash as well. They're going to come into a new coach, but they're going to miss Jim Harbaugh because he has won 2 NFC championships since he's been there. Finished second last year, and this is the first season he doesn't win.
Made him respectable
49er
again, right?
fans have short memories because before his arrival, those 3 great years, 4 years, that team was struggling big time for 8 years. I mean, he's made quite a bit.
Like you mentioned, Jim Harbaugh, he has a pass-first mentality in his offense, but when things are not going well, when you're struggling, what do you go back to?
Run the ball.
You run the ball, right? And like you said, Colin Kaepernick, one of the best rushing or, how do you say it?
Mobile
quarterbacks in the league. So let him get out of the funk. Make him run the ball. Yeah. He hasn't rushed for 1 touchdown
I think
this
it's
year.
too early to tell.
Like they say with players in the NFL or in any sport, when you come back from an injury or to get into the game, you just need to get hit. And let him get hit once or twice on the run, and I feel he'll get his guns going. We'll see next season. I think he'll bounce back, though.
Hopefully we'll see you back. It was great having you on the show. I know you have a lot of stuff coming up. Where can people catch you and some of the fun stuff you're involved
Well,
with?
I'll be on TSN 690 the next couple of weeks filling in for Tony Marinero on the Montreal Forum. You can follow me on Twitter at SimonTSN690.
Thanks for taking the time to do the
Thank
show.
you, Adam.
Stay with us. After the break, I face off against Pastor Terrell Fletcher, an ex-running back of the NFL. You don't want to miss it. With the events in Ferguson, Missouri and the Eric Gardner case gaining national media attention, it's a pleasure this week on Reid Between the Lines to face off against the ex-NFL running back Terrell Fletcher, as well as Pastor Terrell Fletcher. Great to welcome you to the show. Thanks for taking the time.
Hey, fantastic. Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's call a spade here. We know that NBA players have come out. We know the NFL players have come out. As an ex-athlete, are you satisfied and pleased with the amount of support that athletes are showing to this specific case?
You know what I'm pleased about? I'm pleased about the fact that some of these guys have taken the lead to be activists. I don't necessarily think that as an athlete or because you're an athlete, you have to take a stand. But I do believe that as American citizens, men and women that have to live underneath our laws and underneath those that have power structures, that every American be involved, whether you're an athlete or whether you're on the ground in some of these areas. So, I'd like to see the broader context of athletes be involved. But for now, I am satisfied. It's been a long time since we've been this active in sports.
Pastor Fletcher, I want to ask you a few specific questions with regards to the NFL. We know that they've shown support. There's no denying the fact that they come from, very often athletes will come from impoverished neighborhoods. And you know, just like anybody else with regards to some of these communities, it's very difficult. The relationship in between police, people in these communities is very difficult. I'm curious to understand if you feel that that's one of the main reasons why there's so much hesitation from an athlete's perspective to speak up, or is it really more a politically correct stand that they're taking with regards to not upsetting their employer and their organization?
Well, one of the things that you find with African-American athletes is they have an empathy for men and women that have been downtrodden or taken advantage of by the system. It's important to remember that most of these guys are from neighborhoods like Ferguson, the Bronx, or Staten Island, rather. They are from neighborhoods that have been underserved, underprivileged, underfunded, undereducated, and what have you. So they have a sense of sympathy, or an empathy, rather, that connects them to these causes. Now, there are other athletes that have not, that their experience with law enforcement, their experience with power structures is very different. And sometimes I don't know if they really get to connect. So I would like I said, I would love to see some of these guys who weren't raised in these communities just stand on what we consider right. But at the same time, we have to give room for a sense of understanding that some of these guys are protecting their brands. Some are trying to make peace with their employers, and others may just quite simply have a different opinion about the matter. So, the dialogue is important to continue to have between communities, and it's important to remember that the divide in communities exists even on professional teams.
There's no denying that there's a disparity in between the African-American athletes in the NBA, NFL versus the hockey players, National Hockey League baseball, who have not stepped up. But that's also happening in football as well. You look at Peyton Manning, you look at Tom Brady, they haven't really come out and made a stand or taken a stand with regards to this issue. Are you disappointed about that, or is it something that unfortunately is just accepted? It's what we see on a regular day in and day out basis with regards to white professional athletes.
Yeah, I have a tendency to be a tad bit disappointed. Many, particularly in football, basketball, many of the guys that these guys have played with throughout the years are connected to these types of social issues and social struggles. And while it's not a constant conversation in locker rooms, these types of conversations do come up in locker rooms. And what I'd love to see moving forward is that at least there be a dialogue from these high-profile athletes with other athletes in their locker room to learn about their communities, learn about how they grew up, learn about some of the injustices that they've been dealing with. So when stuff like this happens, there can be a strong and unified front. I just can imagine how powerful it would be for Peyton Manning to make a statement about this, or for Tom Brady to make a statement about this, given their position as professional athletes. However, again, I'm trying to be fair with it. I'm sure these guys are phenomenal guys, are great guys from what I hear, but I'm trying to be fair. There is room to to give them a sense of a difference of opinion. They may actually have a difference of opinion as it relates to these types of cases.
You look at athletes and how much of a high pedestal they're put on. With regards to some of the people in your congregation, with regards to the church and some people you see on a week in, week out basis, what is their sentiment? How do they feel about athletes? Do they feel that African-American athletes are doing enough to get the word out and be able to bring attention to this very, very important social issue?
Yeah, interesting. It's a generational thing, Adam. I'll tell you what, there is an older generation in our community that feels like our athletes haven't done enough over the years. And then there's the newer generation, this millennialists, that feel that this is a major step forward. They're excited about their athletes speaking out. And the purpose is simply generational. One generation had Muhammad Ali, had Jim Brown, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, et cetera, where activism was in the culture of their generation. And our current generation and our future generation, they have not had that as a lineage. So it's somewhat of a mixed bag of emotions. But I'll tell you what, this is exciting for me. It's exciting to see these guys use their name, use their celebrity, use their energy, and to some degree put something on the line so that humanity can move forward. I'm super proud of LeBron and Kobe and the host of athletes across America that have stood at least for justice.
We have 20 seconds left. Before I let you go, I want to finish on a positive note. You talked about how excited you are. What is your hope with regards to bridging sport and some of the social issues that we're dealing with right now?
Well, my hope is that everybody just does their part. It's my part to come on shows like yours and try to speak truth to power. It's your part to report equally. It's their part to help try to bring some sense of recognition to these issues. It's the police's part to protect and to serve. It's everybody has a part to play. So my hope is that we can come to the table, we can dialogue, communicate, have conversation, and really unearth the real issues that are happening in our communities.
My hope is to have you back on my show and continue this conversation. Well done. Thanks for taking the time. We appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, man.
Stay with us after the break. My rant is up next. You don't want to miss it. First, the St. Louis Rams held their hands up for Mike Brown. And shortly after, NBA superstars LeBron James, Kevin Garnett, Kobe Bryant, and others wore "I Can't Breathe" shirts. These acts of protest are, of course, in regard to the events in Ferguson, Missouri, and the tragic story of Eric Garner. The last words spoken by a man strangled to death in a chokehold. They say sports and politics are two things you're never supposed to discuss, so think about the result when they cross paths. Now there's a new storyline. Should professional athletes be more involved politically? By making these bold statements, it shows that they not only care about making the world around them a better place, but it creates a formidable bond between the team and the community. Athletes and celebrities have incredible power to influence. They give people a voice and leaders in society where sometimes it could be hard, it could be tough to be heard amongst all the noise. Since then, many people believe that athletes should speak out more and pull their weight to impact their environment, while others think that they shouldn't be allowed to comment on such a touchy subject or make such public statements that clearly violate league protocol. For example, even though the league didn't punish the Rams, and rightfully so, you know they were not pleased. Because an athlete has a bigger platform than most, does it make it their duty to speak out? They're in the spotlight for what they do best, which should be winning games, while being law-abiding citizens, of course. While the athletes have developed a long history for making headlines that have people asking questions, this time the message is clear, and we do not have to read between the lines. Until next time, I'm Adam Reid. Thanks for being with us.
Adam Reid's wardrobe by Carp.ca. Salon services courtesy of Glam Atelier, La Maison de Beauté. Guest accommodations provided by Holiday Inn Express and Suites. Catering services by Piatto Rustico, available at piattorustico.com.